Welcome back. We're talking about Brazil's mounting challenges and how the country will move forward. Joining me now from Sao Paulo is Fabio Ostermann, one of the founders and a former coordinator of the Movimento Brasil Livre, the main civil society group active on the opposition to the current government in Brazil. And from the U.S. state of Utah, Paulo Sotero is director of the Brazil Institute of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Paulo, let me start with you. As we've been hearing, Brazil facing myriad economic problems right now, and of course that corruption scandal as well. We also heard from our reporter that the economy could shrink by 2.5% to 3% this year. Now, some measures have been taken by the government. Discretionary spending has been cut, and they've made it a little bit more difficult for the unemployed to collect benefits. The eligibility requirements have been toughened. But given all that, this is a crucial year for Brazil. It hosts the Olympics this year. What's the outlook?
The outlook is not very promising. As you stated, the economy is bound to continue to shrink. Now most analysts believe that we will be talking about economic growth only in 2017, maybe even in 18. The president facing an impeachment process, impeachment that is unlikely to be successful. The president will stay in power, but she has not been able to harness the support in Congress, in her own coalition, in the public necessary to confront the situation. So it is a complicated era for Brazil, a complicated moment. Anti-corruption investigations continuing. Actually, yesterday a new phase started, now getting the investigations very close to former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who has been sort of the main supporter and mentor to President Dilma Rousseff. All in all, a very negative outlook at this point.
Fabio, you represent an important group in Brazil, young people. You're the leader of a youth movement. What do young people want to see in Brazil right now?
Young people in Brazil want to see change because we are not satisfied with the ways our country has been going. And we're currently undergoing one of the worst economic and political crises of our whole history, certainly the worst times in the last 20 years. Especially because we have been going through a period of growth, a period of development that was stopped by some economic measures and political misdemeanors that led the country to this situation. Inflation is rising, unemployment is rising, and we don't see in any foreseeable future a different direction in this path. The government doesn't know where to go. The president seems like she doesn't have a clue of what she should be doing. She sometimes seems to be swerving to the right, to the left, but she doesn't have the conviction to know where to lead the country, especially the economy. And this is something that everybody knows. I'm not very confident that she will be impeached before the local elections that we have this year in October. But I think the scenario is very uncertain, and I personally don't believe that she will finish her term, which means that she will not continue to be the president until 2018, because the crisis is getting deeper and deeper.
Paulo, there's some very bitter medicine being prescribed for Brazil's ills. Given that the president is under a cloud of impeachment right now, is she the person that is going to be able to administer this medicine? I mean, what they're talking about here is more spending cuts. They talk about austerity.
Yeah, as Fabio mentioned, she clearly is not the person that will have the capacity to do the very difficult measures that will have to be implemented to rebalance fiscal accounts in Brazil, to put Brazil back on a path to economic growth. The fact is that, we have an institutional democracy in Brazil. You cannot remove remove the president at will. It has to follow a process. The process is started by the opposition, has not, and it's unlikely at this point to succeed. I don't believe that the mobilization of in the streets has indicated any desire from the people to add to the pressure, in part because the opposition to President Dilma Rousseff has not been able to offer also a credible alternative. So the country seems to be adrift. There is a crisis of leadership, essentially, and nothing is offered to counter the government of President Dilma Rousseff, which is supported by barely 10% of the population. As Fabio mentioned, the situation, the economic situation continues to deteriorate. What could change this is that this deterioration will at some point cause a reaction, because unemployment is going up, unemployment benefits are running out. I was just in São Paulo, and you can see that there is a sense of great apprehension, enormous frustration, because Brazil was going in a totally different direction until about 2 years ago. There is also a sense in Brazil that this crisis was created in Brazil. This is self-imposed, and the solutions will have to be found in Brazil by Brazilians through the institutional channels we have. The frustration is that we seem to continue to be in gridlock.
Fabio, Forbes magazine, a very influential business and financial magazine, says that the Brazilian political system as a whole is lacking in credibility. Do you believe that to be the case, that the political system here is a major part of the problem in Brazil?
Well, the political and economic problem in Brazil are completely intertwined. I tend to agree partially with what Paulo said, but I also disagree about some of the things he said. For instance, in Brazil we see in the streets, and the polls show this very, very clearly, that no more than 15% of the population support our government, but there's no political project on the opposition. And this is due also to the fact that Brazilian democracy is still not that well developed. In terms of political parties, the only one political party that's fully institutionalized, as we say in the political science literature, is the Workers' Party. All the other parties are just an amalgamate of political interests that can vary from state to state. And this lack of credibility in the political system has been creating a gridlock. At the same time that Brazilians, and this means civil society, business, and the political establishment, don't want our president to remain there, there's not enough will and enough strength to take her out through impeachment, through the cassation of her candidacy, which is a much more complex process. But there's no other way than to keep on putting pressure in the political system to do its role, and to put some pressure for the government to let the press and our FBI, our federal police, to work properly as they have been doing, to try to go deeper in the investigations about the corruption scandals that Brazil has been living through.
We have unemployment rising in Brazil, as we've heard from yourself as well as other guests. What is the job market like for young graduates in the country, and for other job seekers as well?
Yeah, I can see that from my friends and colleagues from the movement and from other networks I take part in. When I graduated from school 8 years ago, things were completely different. Right now, people are much more reluctant to join the labor market, and they're considering other endeavors in life because jobs are shrinking, the wages are shrinking, the number of jobs is shrinking, and an incredible amount of people are even considering something very new for Brazilians, because Brazil is not a country that has a very great tradition of migrating abroad. If you take, for instance, the Brazilian colony in the U.S. is proportionately one of the smallest in the country, especially if you compare with other Latin American countries. But this reality is slowly changing, because lots of Brazilians are starting to consider the idea of migrating because they don't see a future here. And this is very, very, very dangerous for the future of the country, because we're suffering a process of brain draining, because most of the well-educated, highly skilled workers are starting to contemplate the idea of leaving the country. And this is, this brings the prospects of a dark future for our recovery.
Paulo, this might be hard to believe, but only 6 years ago, it was Brazil that was lending money to the IMF. In 2009, Brazil lent the IMF $10 billion. The GDP in the country in 2010 rose to 7.5%. It was the 5th largest economy in the world. Do you think it's going to get back there?
Well, it will get back there. The same resources that we had before, we still have. Fabio is absolutely right about the danger of losing well-qualified manpower now, the skilled workers that we need, that we still lack. But the crisis is an opportunity to understand what happened, to attack the problems with courage. The problem in Brazil is a problem of confidence. Once the politicians, political leaders manage to get out the message or to instill confidence that the country will be governed in a reasonable way, in a way that distributes income, generates wealth, investments will be back in Brazil. The problem is that we don't have right now that equation. The president is very weak. She is not particularly talented at conducting the affairs of the state. She is increasingly isolated. And what is also surprising is that the opposition doesn't seem to be capable of offering an alternative to this. So people are just watching, perplexed, suffering the consequences of this paralysis. The ones that are more, has a more enterprising spirit are doing precisely, or are planning to do precisely what Fabio said. The numbers of people requesting information about how to immigrate to this and that country is increasing. Those who have ancestors in other countries are considering this. This is a very sad situation. Brazilians right now are in a mood that's very strange for Brazilians. We are normally a very upbeat bunch of people, and we are not.
Okay, that's where we have to leave it. Paulo Cetero, Fabio Ostermann, thanks to both of you for joining us.